Welcome to the Troy Kearns Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, business, and entrepreneurship. Today, I have a very special guest of mine, Dennis Alderman. Dennis has been working with me for about 4 years. Dennis is an agent in Las Vegas. He moved here from Oregon in 1982. What?
Correct, 1982.
1982. He's been in Las Vegas for almost 40 years. And Dennis is probably one of the best agents I've ever worked with. Why? Because he only calls me with really good questions and he takes action. We had a meeting and he's had some health issues and been fighting through those. We could talk a little bit about, how health can slow you down and why that's the most important thing. But really today, he came in and he said, you know what? I want to buy 10 rentals. And I said, well, that's good information. Let's share that with our audience. Let's ask questions. So Dennis, why don't you give a little brief introduction of who you are, where you are in life, and so our audience can get to know you.
So my name is Dennis Alderman. I moved here when I was 22 years old. Happened to be 1982, and I've been here ever since. Seen this town change from being about 350,000 people to over 2 million.
So since you've been here, we've added 2 million people to...
Pretty much, yeah. And it's kind of a funny little story. I worked for one of the big builders when I first moved here, and he took us out after work. He wanted to meet with his supervisors, and he pointed out to the desert, and he said, see all that? And we're like, what? See all what?
Yeah.
He's like, all that desert. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, there's nothing but desert there. And he goes, in 10 years, there's going to be 100,000 people living there. We just were like, beer time, because we didn't know what to do with that.
Right.
Who knows that? I mean, I came in from a town of 20,000 people that's still got 20,000 people in it.
And where is that in Oregon?
I grew up in a town called Pendleton. Has a roundup and has the woolen mills.
Still got 20,000 people.
Still got 20, yeah, still got about 20,000.
Good thing you left.
Well, I mean, it was an adventure for me.
Right.
It happened to be that I came out here for work. I was trying to finish my education, and my parents had divorced, and so I was looking for work, and I came out here and found work. And then, at some point, I thought I'd always go back home, and I went back, and I realized I didn't really have anything there, but I had built everything here.
Right.
And so I just embraced here and moved on,
All right, so can we share a little bit about where you are in life? Tell us about your family. Tell us about your career. Where are you at in life right now?
All right, so married to my first wife now for pushing 36, 37 years. Got 2 grown male sons who are married and I think we have a total of 6 grandkids now. So.
And you hooked me up with Garth Brooks tickets on one of those sons, right?
Yeah, my oldest son. And the funny thing about that is we had those tickets before COVID, right?
Right.
And then COVID canceled it. And so it came back around and I had another commitment and I was like, let's see if Troy wants to go. Man, Eden and him would love that show.
We had a great time. It was crazy because we literally went to the Garth Brooks show, I think the night before.
Right.
We thought it was the night before. And then we go, and then we have to leave literally like probably halfway through the show. But I'm like, I'm not letting Dennis down. He gave me these dang tickets. It's going to be, we had a great time. And then they, said, oh, there's no more concerts ever again after that. So I really feel like first country concert. Thank you so much for letting me do that. That was a super nice gesture. I appreciate that. You've always been super cool with me, and I really appreciate that. For those of you guys who don't know, Dennis is an agent on my small team. Dennis is a full-time guy. He follows directions. He takes action. And so where are you at in your career right now?
I'm enjoying my career. I mean, I come from contracting background where I was pretty much working in 6-7 states from Hawaii to New York and had a couple hundred employees. And so I was working like 24/7, 365. And so even though I'm a hardworking agent, in this career, it seems like I'm kind of underemployed, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just because I know what hard work's like. So now I'm doing, 40 or so transactions a year. I'm enjoying it, but I still feel like I have free time. And my main focus, I made a lot of money in real estate before the crash, as far as personal properties that I had bought and sold at the right time and so forth. When you got interested in Kansas City and some of these other areas, Mississippi and so forth, I went, hey, you know what? It might be time for me to branch out to that.
Right. I'm glad to hear that you say that because that's my goal, is to realize that you're looking in Las Vegas and that's like, it's not realistic for you to buy rentals out here.
Right. Market's
when you look at me
high.
buying stuff in Kansas City, you're like, I could do that too. That's affordable for me.
It's the right price, right?
Yeah.
You look at those prices and you go, that could triple. You know what I mean?
Or just the cash flow alone.
And the cash flow, yeah.
I try to stay away from speculation, although I see the same upside that you see there. but mainly just from a
cash flow
standpoint. Okay, so let's get into it. Tell me what you want to do. What's your goal?
I'm 61 now.
Okay.
So
you're up there, we would say, right?
Yeah, I'm in my autumn of my days.
You're in the autumn, not in the winter.
Not in the winter. And, obviously I want to prolong my days,
Yes,
I'm into longevity and so forth. But tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Right, for sure, 100%.
And so if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? Number one.
That's for sure.
But number two, I've always had an interest in owning multiple properties. And my ultimate goal might be own 50, 75, who knows? I mean, I don't know where I would stop, right?
Once you get it figured out, you're going to give your license back and probably go full tilt, just because I know how you are.
Right.
Like Dennis is the type of guy where when he first joined my team, he asked me for a couple pieces of advice. He wrote all the advice down and he took action. And one of the pieces of advice I said, if I was a new agent, I would get a Redfin account because that's where things are headed, right?
Right.
And Dennis took that by the lead, and I think that's been one of your best lead sources.
Definitely has been one of my best lead sources.
And even though you have to kick some of the commission back because of their program, you still get guaranteed good leads, and that's worth something, right? That's worth...
Yeah. I'm leaving after this meeting. I'm meeting with a $550,000 client 3 miles from here.
3 miles from here.
Yeah.
So real estate is where it's at. It's in selling it, you're making big commissions. In buying it, you might be able to make a big enough commission on this sale to buy a house in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, the houses are cheap enough in Kansas City where you might be able to take a couple commissions, parlay those into some sort of a real estate investment in Kansas City. So you have a goal right now that you hit me with right before this show that you said, hey, I want to own 10 rental properties. So what does that look like to you?
And that's part of my questions. I don't have all the answers. Troy knows how to start, right, and he knows what it looks like in the middle. And obviously the end of the process at some point is you own them lock, stock, and barrel. You don't have a payment on them, and you have renters renting them forever, and you're just maintaining them. There's got to be a starting point, whether you're putting so much of your own money in or whether you're buying the thing with your own money, or whether you use other people's money in some respects, or whether you're doing some flips to generate more cash to then maybe buy one outright or so forth.
Right. So you want to buy 10 properties. That's the goal. And why is 10 properties the goal?
It's just a start. I look at it as a beginning. Obviously it's got to start with one.
So I'm going to take you backwards a little bit. So my advice to you would be, hey, you know what? You want to get started in real estate, forget about the 10 properties. What kind of cash flow do you need to retire, not work?
That's the goal. Right?
Right.
I'm one of those guys that has everything paid off in my life. I only have electricity, water, gas, auto insurance. I don't have any debt of any kind. I could, to replace what I need, I probably could do that for under 10 grand. And that's
10 grand per month.
Yeah, and that's having...
So $120,000 a year would be enough for you to retire and be comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. We always had to start with the end in mind, and that's your end in mind is $10,000 a month. Okay.
Well, that's the beginning, though, right? Obviously, I would want to double it and triple it and whatever because I want.
Now you're starting with zero,
so that's a comfortable goal to get.
So that we're setting a short-term goal.
Yeah, it's like a waypoint, right?
Yeah, right. That's going to be our milestone, right?
Right, milestone, waypoint.
Right. We're going to get our $120,000 per year. So let's figure out how that works, right? I have a thing called the Troy Kearns Wealth Building Formula, and that is basically buying rentals for cash, flipping to make the cash to buy them, and then investing in long-term rentals, and then using leverage to buy larger properties for cash flow to basically use those and do cost segregations and 1031 exchanges to eliminate your federal income tax altogether, therefore bifurcating your federal income tax to buy another investment property. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you may have some more questions. First of all, how much cash do you have available that you would like to spend or that you'd feel comfortable spending investing in real estate today?
I've got a bunch of stock, but the cash I have probably on hand is probably around $75,000.
What about stock?
I got 8 million shares of stock.
How many?
It's a little more, 8 million shares.
Shares of different companies? You got lots of stocks, but you're saying.
I got stock. I have some cash that I want to start with.
So I'm going to use cash and stock as the same term because they're both liquid assets, right?
Right.
So you have stock, but it's just paper that you own. Does it generate you any income?
It's like counterfeit money, right?
Right. Let me ask you this.
I don't get income from it.
Okay. So what do you get?
It's not a buy and hold. I had sold some companies that were and I'd gotten stock for it.
So, but right now you get to watch a graph go up and down, right?
Right.
Okay, so there's no cash flow.
Yeah.
There's no monthly check. You're not borrowing money against it. You can't get rent. You've got one exit strategy, and that is to sell.
Right.
When it goes up to the price that you like, or it goes down low enough that you're scared and you sell it because you're worried about it going all the way down, right?
Right. And then anytime you sell stock, you're pushing it down too. You know what I mean? It's not like stock sales don't push your own stock value down.
Right. Reverse of real estate, like you make a good comp, it's going to push the market up.
Right.
And so we're not going to get into how much cash you have access to, but we're going to say it's over $100,000. My first piece of advice would be to start looking to buy one property within the next month in Kansas City.
Okay.
That's step number one, for cash with no loan.
And that would be in the neighborhood of how much to how much?
My goal for you would be able to find a property that you're all in for less than $60,000 that can produce a total rent of about $1,000. And so your cash on cash return will be a little bit under 20%, but you'll have low taxes, low insurance. It'll be thoughtless. So the way I look at real estate investing is you're parking money, right? Right now you're parking money in the stock market. You're parking money in your savings account, right?
Right.
And you're hoping that they go up in value. And that's the first thing you said with real estate. They might go up in value. But when we're talking about real estate at the Troy Kearns channel, we're talking about cash flow only.
Cash flow.
We don't care if it goes up in value. We love when it goes up in value. We hold for 10 years. So when you're going to buy this property in Kansas City, I want you to have the attitude of, I'm holding this property for 10 years.
Right.
Okay? No matter what happens. Because going in with that mindset is going to change the way you see things, right?
Okay, right.
Because if it goes up super quick, you might want to sell if you didn't have that mindset. Like a lot of guys that I know that invested in Las Vegas that didn't have that mindset sold way too early. Like my buddy Jared Jones, one of his biggest mistakes, he'll tell you about it. He owned as many properties as I did. When we bought them for $25,000, when they went up to 40, he sold them.
Yeah. I worked for Jared, you know.
Oh, that's right.
Right before you, in fact.
Yeah, so you know better than anything. And he told me the other day that was the biggest mistake that he ever made, was not holding on to real estate. And that's one thing that our audience should be listening to right now, is that if you make a mistake with real estate, even if you made a mistake in 2005 and you bought your real estate, has that market recovered, Dennis?
Yeah.
Are the people right side up now?
I believe so.
Yeah. Pretty much any deal is right side up now. And you've gotten cash flow in the meantime.
And you've paid the debt down 10 years.
You've paid the debt down for 16 years.
Yeah, 16 years.
16 years now. So you should be almost halfway through your mortgage.
Right.
Having an asset. The market will be recovered. And real estate is a long-term play. And you might be in the stock market. Listen, I started investing in the stock market when I was 17 years old. 17 years old, bought it, dollar cost averaging, investing 10 to 15% of my income every month, and I'm just watching graphs. I'm not getting any income. I'm not getting any leverage.
Right.
I'm not getting any cash flow. All right, so we're going to buy a house for $60,000 that's going to get at least $900 in rent, maybe $1,000, maybe $1,100, maybe $1,200. That's going to be our goal. So you're going to start scouring the market for good, big houses that need less work than what you can handle from being over here. And you're going to make lots of offers, because that's what it takes to get the right deal. You make lots of low offers and you close quick because you're buying cash. And I'm going to hold your hand because I'm in Kansas City and you're a good guy, and we'll get through it together and I'll help you out. So you got nothing to worry about. So keep going. What else you got?
You know, you're going to start with one, right? And then you're going to do it repeat. Basically, it's like one of your other guests said, rinse and repeat. You just start out with one, you make it work, rinse and repeat till you're up to 10, and then you reevaluate what you can do to get to 20. And
right.
You know.
So let's talk about how we get to 20, right? First thing that we do, and we always tell people this, is get started. You need to get started. And I'm sure there's time that you kick yourself for not starting before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm kicking myself for not starting in real estate versus the stock market, right?
Right.
But you're taking action at 61 years old, or young, however you want to look at it, right?
Right.
61 years young because you're healthy, you're vibrant, and you want to build something at this stage in your life, and you're like, okay, I could keep slinging real estate, but at some point in time, I'm going to want to kick back. And I know I can make up for time with money, right? And that's what real estate allows you to get is versus trading what right now you're trading time for dollars, right?
Right.
With real estate, you're going to be getting time with your dollars. You're buying time. Let's go through it. So once you buy one, and the way we're going to buy it is we're going to buy it under market value, and we're going to put a little bit of money into it. And so you're going to have some cash. So you're going to have some equity. So you definitely could go in there and you could refinance it. You could do a BRRRR. You could pull your money out. I'm not going to suggest that you do that. Okay. If this was your first house that you ever bought, and you were a new investor and you were trying to scale extremely fast, I might advise that. But based on where you're at in your life and based on how responsible of a person I know you are, I'm going to say don't mortgage that property until you absolutely need to. I'm going to say buy that one for $60,000, get a renter in there, and then lock down the next one with that same formula. And then continue to go until you feel nervous about your cash position. Because I know the type of person I'm talking to, and this is not a conversation for just everybody. This is a conversation specifically to you and how well I know you. And I'm saying that I know that you're going to work harder to go replace that income that you took out of your stock or out of your savings or wherever. And then you're going to build that back up. And you're going to park that cash into that real estate, and that real estate is going to start generating your income. And then you're going to realize, oh, I've made that money back already, right? By the time the 3 to 6 months that it took you to buy that first property and put a renter in there, then you're going to look at it and you're like, oh, I just built my money back up again. And I've already got this money parked here now, so let's go buy another one. And then that might take another 3 to 6 months, and you're going to build that capital back up again. And then you're going to say, through your high income earning activity, which is real estate sales, right? And then as you get better at it, you're going to go, okay, now I've got 10 houses, Troy, right? I've got 10 houses. I've got $600,000 out on the street, but my $600,000 might be worth $1.5 million. So then you could go to the bank and you can get a portfolio loan, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can go and take that money back, right? You can go get a portfolio loan, you can get a line of credit, a business line of credit, and then you can go and make a bigger play. And that bigger play could be commercial real estate, which is going to allow you to do what is called a cost segregation study. Now, a cost segregation study is basically accelerated depreciation on your assets. It really makes sense when you have high income and when you buy large properties that you just bought because you have not taken the depreciation off of them. When I say taking the depreciation off of it, I mean that initially when you buy your property, you are allowed for commercial property 39.5 years of depreciation. When you're talking about residential property, that's 27 and a half years. That means that when you buy the property for $100,000, they divide the depreciation by either 27 and a half years or 39 and a half years, depending on if it's commercial or residential. And then you're allowed to depreciate that over that course of time divided by that number. With cost segregation, you accelerate the depreciation schedule and get to take the loss up front as a paper loss against your earned income, which means that I made negative $229,000 last year, according to the IRS, 100% legally. And that's how the rich avoid taxes and continue to invest in cash flow in real estate.
Sounds fabulous. I'd like to learn so much more, and I'm sure it would take a little bit of time. You move up from your 10 rental properties or whatever it is, maybe it's your 15 rental properties, look into commercial, look into maybe...
No, I think you keep going. I think that you, at 10, you evaluate, right? You go, I don't think you need to take too much risk. I think that you should play it slow and steady. And, I think that you should make a goal yourself that you close on 2 properties before the end of the year. I think if you make a goal in the next 30 days that you identify one and that you make however many offers it takes to get a property, okay?
All right, so now it's finding the properties. Obviously, the MLS is not the place to find them. The place to find them, I think, is Real Estate Deal Machine and a couple other ones.
No. Kansas City is full of wholesalers. You need to go to Facebook groups. Bridge, if you guys are looking for deals in Kansas City, Bridge Investment Group, who's kicked me off like 5 times. I don't think they like the Troy Kearns channel or Troy Kearns in general. But they have a great resource, and all my staff has access. So if they don't know who they are, so I'm good there. But Bridge, that's where you see a lot of people post deals. There's all sorts of real estate investment Facebook groups. I know you're a big Facebook guy, so I would tell you look for wholesalers that are bringing you deals on Facebook and start there. And also look at the MLS.
All right. So access to the MLS in Kansas City.
I bought my first 80 properties entirely off the MLS.
Really?
Yes.
So you just join their MLS, or how do you?
I have an agent I'll set you up with.
Okay. That's cool.
So we'll give a shout out to Corey Sprehe. He'll take good care of you. He's dealing with the Las Vegas investing quadrant because a bunch of my buddies are heading to Kansas City to invest now. As you know, that usually happens.
Right.
You got to blaze the trail, and I'm blazing it, and people are following, and that's cool because that'll help my investment, and there's plenty to go around. All right, so keep going. What we got?
2 deals by the end of the year. Get with your real estate guy, join the Facebook group, get your head around some wholesaling, and
So a couple meetings that you're going to want to have. You're going to want to find a couple good contractors in Kansas City. So you're going to want to fly out there once you have your first deal. You're going to want to have me come out there and look at the property with you.
Right.
Because you've never done anything like this. It's a completely different market. And I've dealt with 100 of them in the last 18 months. I'm super excited that you're getting into this, first of all, because you told me that when you first started my team and you haven't taken action on it yet. So I'm calling you to the table right now.
I'm in.
And you're recorded. As you know, we are our own worst enemies. So take action. And there's going to be people commenting. They're going to want to know what's going on with Dennis.
That's right. I'm good at taking action once I've just made the decision.
So you've made the decision now.
Made the decision. I knew I really couldn't do it here. Wasn't sure I wanted to do it in Mississippi and New Orleans. I like the idea of New Orleans, but when you live in Vegas, you already know kind of how New Orleans is going to be, and then you see a bunch of tornadoes, or not tornadoes, hurricanes
I think you're making I honestly, if I was to tell anybody, like, the Midwest in general is the place to be investing. Ohio, Kansas City, Arkansas, Oklahoma. The Midwest is where it's at. You know what they call it in the Midwest? Because I'm now a Midwesterner right now. The Midbest.
The Midbest?
Midbest. Yeah. Cool. And I honestly, every single person I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now because I have felt so welcomed there. It's an amazing feeling when, like, you move to a new town and you feel like it's your hometown.
Right.
And I felt that way when I moved to Las Vegas. And now lately Las Vegas hasn't felt like my hometown as much anymore because I'm all in. In fact, I'm going to get me personalized license plate. My realtor, Corey and Andrea's the team lead over there. She dared me to put on my license plate because I just got pulled over by the cops at gunpoint the other day, and I'll save that story for another day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but the basic premise was I had Nevada plates and I didn't see the cops, so I failed to yield in a quick enough time, and he held me out at gunpoint with my children in the car. It was a totally traumatic experience. So I'm like, I definitely need to get Missouri plates now, and I'm going to get one called All In KC. So
that's cool.
Because I'm all in on Kansas City. I think it's honestly, if you are out there and you're thinking of a place to move, I think it's a great place to move. I think it's a great place to raise a family. We are headed to Florida. I hope I don't get stuck in Kansas City because I really like it there. And I want to be in Florida, but there's so many opportunities. We're enjoying our time there. It's a great market to invest in. The Midwest has so much going on for it. If you don't know, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history about Kansas City. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
All right, so I am a little bit of a self-described geek, okay? And so when I geek out when it's time to invest in new markets, so when I first got into investing in Kansas City, I went all in. I went on tours, I went on scooters, and we'll go on a scooter out there together. It's pretty fun. We're going to get to know Kansas City, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was Kansas City has a ton of history there. First of all, World War I Museum is in Kansas City, right?
Oh, wow.
So they have the World War I Museum there. If you didn't know, Kansas City was one of the premier jazz and booze clubs in the 1930s when it was outlawed all across the country. So
because of Prohibition.
Because of Prohibition, Kansas City boomed in the 1920s, the 1930s. In fact, most of the major buildings that were built in Kansas City that are in the skyline were all built by a guy named Tom Pendergast. And Tom Pendergast got Harry Truman elected. Harry Truman was the president of the United States, okay? And there's a big drive, Truman, that runs from Kansas City to Independence. And if you didn't know a lot, you need to know where you're investing. You need to know about the people. You need to know about the places. But one of the cool things that I want to talk about Kansas City is those buildings out there. Number one, a lot of the big ones are qualified for historical tax credits.
Oh, wow.
So when you're investing in Kansas City, not only could you possibly get your repair credits subsidized by the U.S. government and the local state government up to 45% back, not on single family residences, but on the big stuff.
On historic buildings.
Right. So if you're doing like a $10 million job, you can get 4.5 back as a tax credit. It's a great place to invest. There's a ton of historical buildings, and I'm super excited that you're beginning this journey.
That's awesome. And something you didn't know about me is one of my companies that I was dealing with in these other states was in St. Louis. So I spent about a year there. I really liked St. Louis when I was there. I didn't know anything about it when I got there, but yeah, it's a very similar thing.
They say it's very similar to Kansas City. They call Kansas City Killer City, and I know St. Louis has got lots of crime too. So they're crime-ridden Midwest cities with only upside potential, because people like me, like you, are like, we can't get anything in the West Coast.
It
doesn't cash flow. So we're putting our money into these types of markets.
Right.
And the people there, they already think the market's passed, because they were buying those houses for $5,000 and $10,000.
Oh, wow.
5 or 6 years ago.
I didn't realize
that. And now
that.
we're paying $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. But for us, it's still a great deal, because we do believe there's more upside, because where are people going? They're leaving California. They're headed to Nevada. They're also headed to Kansas City.
Yeah, the Midwest.
They're not going to New York City. They're not going to the East Coast.
Fleeing the cities, heading from the blue big cities to the red countryside.
Right. So I just was on a boat the other day with a friend of mine, Mike Zeller, who's building the Rock Island Bridge. If you don't know what the Rock Island Bridge is, I'm going to be an investor, and I haven't put my money to the table yet, but I'm putting this on the record, so he already knows. But Mike Zeller, I'm investing in this project, and it's an old railroad trust that he's building into like a city, a floating city. And it's going to be a really cool project. There's just a ton going on out there. There's a ton of history. There's a ton of opportunity. And you know what? You can get started no matter how small of an investor you are, no matter how big of an investor you are. There's opportunity every day, versus in Las Vegas, I see less opportunity and more people. Like, if you see a deal posted on a Facebook group in Las Vegas, you're going to see like 95 comments on it. If you see one in Kansas City, it might be like 12.
Less competition.
Bigger spreads.
Right. You got a lower entry. Here, a decent home's $250. You can hardly find one for $250 anymore.
Right. I wouldn't call those decent homes either, because I bought them for like $20,000.
Right. That's
and now they're not good. I mean, they would rent out for what, $1,200 for a $250,000 house, maybe
something like that. Yeah, maybe
$1,100. Rents jumped up, but so
it's way better if you're doing 60 and getting 9 or 10.
Right. What other questions do you have? You said you had 7 questions. We've answered 2.
Well, and some of those questions kind of went away because of how you've answered the first 2. Whether it would be other people's money. You were saying, hey, don't use other people's money. Use your own money. Buy it cash.
Use other people's money when you're going to flip. Use other people's money when you're going to buy a big building. But if you're buying small little places that you're just parking your cash in,
right,
just like a bank account, just like the stock market, you don't need other people's money. You're going to dilute your return. You're going to have unnecessary insurance that you don't need. You're going to have a mortgage payment that if that thing's sitting empty, you're feeling pressure on. You don't need that kind of pressure or stress.
So let's say the first property bought for $60,000 or under, and you wanted to flip it maybe instead of cash flow it. Maybe you want to flip the first 3 or 4. What kind of no? Okay.
No. Here's why.
No. Okay.
You're going to go in with that mindset, and it's going to change your mindset. You need to go into the buy and hold.
Buy and hold mindset. Okay.
Buy and hold mindset. Now, once you get 10, you can look at those 10 and go, you know what? This one, I paid $60 for it. It's worth $200. I'm only getting $900 rent. I know I could buy 3 or 4 more that I'm going to get $900 rent on. Let me get rid of this one and go buy 3 more.
So that's when you would do it.
Once you get to your first goal and you're like, all right, I call it horse trading. Like what they used to do in the old days, trade that horse for this horse. Right. You're like, all right, I don't want this house no more. Let's sell that one and buy these 3, And then you do a 1031 exchange because you've had held it for at least a year or longer. Pay no capital gains on that, and go buy 3 more properties for the money that you gained on that first one.
And that was one of the other questions too, is whether because we had talked about wholesaling, we had talked about flipping, we had talked about buy and hold. And so you're saying basically the market on wholesaling out there it's already saturated. There's so many.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that your skill set is earning commissions. Keep doing that, and then go buy real estate. Don't worry about trying to become a wholesaler to go buy real estate. You already
take too much time.
You already have a high income skill set. You're already making good money, and for you to go wholesaling would be going backwards at this stage in your career.
Okay.
Because the wholesaler is basically earning a commission as well by finding a property, right?
Yeah.
And so,
commission or spread or whatever it is.
And so out there, they're not as greedy as they are here. So you're going to you'll find plenty of good deals.
Okay. So that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've pretty much got the questions answered that I needed now. Obviously, once you get involved, there's going to be more questions. And
I'm here for you. Whatever you need. I'm going to finish up a few things for our listening audience. And if you guys haven't done so before, make sure you go and give us a 5-star review. Dennis has been a gracious guest. He's sharing a lot of his questions. I know a lot of you guys out there right now are beginning investors, and it's scary, but the more that you engage, the more that you comment, the more that you follow this stuff, you'll build up the self-esteem, the confidence subconsciously to understand what you're looking for. So when it's time to take action, you have the confidence, the know-how, at least some of it, that is going to give you the ability to get started. But the first thing that you need to do is you need to write down goals and get started, right? You need to write down these goals and get started, because tomorrow's not certain, as you know. Today is not guaranteed. And the only thing that we can do is control what choices that we make. We can control our choices. And up until this point, you have chosen not to invest in real estate, and you're about ready to change that decision, and it's going to change your life. And if you're listening right now, by choosing to invest in real estate, if I didn't make that decision 19 years ago to invest in real estate, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And if I didn't choose to embrace failure, that you're going to embrace, right? You're going to embrace failure, Dennis, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get tired of it. You're going to have a good mindset, a solution-minded mindset. And once you do that, success will meet you. And once you have success and you have that positivity mindset that comes with success, then you're going to have it repeatable, and you're going to inspire someone else to get started. And that's going to change somebody else's life. And that's what we're trying to do on the Troy Kearns Channel podcast, is we're trying to change lives by interviewing compelling people like yourself that have a story to tell that can inspire someone else to get started in real estate.
Perfect.
If you guys haven't done so, make sure you give us a 5-star review. Make sure you check out the Troy Kearns channel on YouTube. Check me out on TikTok. Check me out on Instagram. Dennis, if they want to follow your journey, how do they do that?
I've got a lot to do on social media. I'm as
Do you have an Instagram account?
I do have an Instagram account. But you know what? I couldn't even tell you what it is.
All right, so we got a couple goals. The goal today is
figure out what my Instagram.
Set up your Instagram account, and I want you to keep us posted and tag me into your progress.
That I can do.
So that we can, be like, hey, this is Dennis. You remember he was on our show? I know you're going to be calling me when you get the first property that you're looking to make an offer on. So you're going to call me on that, and we'll make a video out of it. We'll do like a whole little deal out of it, like me just walking you through the process, and it'll be fun.
Sounds perfect.
So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I just want to ask you a few questions real quick before we let you go. What would you give the advice to the younger people out there who are listening from a wise man of 61 years old? It doesn't have to be about real estate, it just has to be about life. If you were to go back, and a lot of our audience is men skewing between the ages of 18 to 45 years old, and women skewing between the ages of 18 and 45 years old. What would you give those young people? What would your sage, your wisdom of 61 years walking this planet be? What would that advice be?
You follow certain individuals like yourself who are putting themselves out there as mentors, like, for instance, maybe Tony Robbins or some of these other more famous people. One of the things that I picked up from Tony that I found it fascinating, and then I've always kept it on hand, and that is, we're led through our lives by the questions we ask ourselves. And at first you're like, what?
Yeah.
But let's look at it like this. Let's say you fail at something. You're going to ask yourself, why am I always screwing up like that? How come I screwed up? I'm such a screw up. Why does this always happen to me? Well, your brain's going to go to work and give you 1,000 reasons why you're a screw up.
That's a victim mindset, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But if you were to say, what have I got to do to get this right? What have I got to do? Who have I got to be to succeed? Now you've asked the right question, because the answer is worth knowing.
So you're saying the internal dialogue that you have with yourself, the questions, the self-talk, and the questions that you ask yourself versus like what I always try to do is, if I'm failing, what am I learning from this mistake so that I can't repeat it, right? You're saying the questions that you ask yourself, those answers are going to guide you in life.
Right.
That's great.
And that's Tony Robbins. I don't want to steal it, but I'm stealing it for this purpose because I found it very useful in my life, and for anybody 18 to 45 or so, if you can catch on to that, you will revolutionize your life. Because if you keep asking yourself the questions that aren't going to get you anywhere, you're going to get the answers that aren't going to take you anywhere.
Right.
But if you can just turn it and ask the question in a way that the answer is going to revolutionize your life, then you ask yourself those questions.
Appreciate that wisdom. Thanks for dropping it on us, and thanks for being available and being so transparent with everything.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
See ya.